Everybody. Welcome to today's event, which is titled The Power of Agile HR, a mindset and culture that puts people first. In today's rapidly evolving business landscape, the role of HR has become more and more critical than it has ever been. To succeed, HR managers need to be agile, responsive, and people-centric. And in today's conversation, we are talking with Anja van Beek, who dials in from South Africa, and she shares her journey as an HR director. And we explore the power of Agile HR through her journey. We elaborate on how Agile HR can help HR managers lead their businesses towards a very people-centric culture and a culture of continuous improvement and innovation. So without further ado, I'm going to dive right into the session and welcome our esteemed guest for today, Anja van Beek, dialing in from South Africa. Welcome, Anja.
Thank you, Sarika. I love to be here. Thank you for the invitation and sharing a few lessons that I have learned along the way on my journey in HR.
It is a delight to have you, Anja. And you and I both know our conversations have always been super awesome, super, I don't know, it's just a delight to talk to you. And you have so much of experience that you enrich each conversation with. So super glad to have you here again with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So where shall I begin? Perhaps just tell the people you've mentioned I'm based in South Africa. Yeah. So I'm here in Pretoria, sort of in the center of South Africa. I used to work in a corporate environment. I was head of HR for a big multinational. And about 7 years ago, I decided to take the leap of faith and I started my own coaching and consulting business. And I have not looked back. Yeah. So I think that's perhaps the link for our conversation today, because in my business, I focus on 3 specific areas. On the one side, it's doing executive and team coaching and really support individuals and teams to have a look, but what are their ambition or their goals, and how can I support them and partner with them to reach their goals? The second focus is looking at Agile HR and Agile leadership, and specifically have a look at what can we learn from the Agile ways of working. So why is that such an important focus? So that's quite a big focus in my business, where I do some certification for the Agile HR and the Agile leadership. I want to say streams. And then thirdly, in my business, facilitate quite a few workshops that's focused on leadership development. So I'm a facilitator for the Human Edge, and they focus on building winning cultures, doing facilitate workshops like crucial conversations and crucial accountability. I also have a passion for mentorship. So one of the programs that we roll out is about mentorship. But I think the golden thread is really about personal and leadership development. Yeah, so I think that's the golden thread. Or perhaps I should put it this way. That's on the individual's focus, but then on the organization and business focus, it's about building cultures where people can succeed. Yeah, I think that's what I do.
Beautiful. Building cultures where people can succeed, and which is why I think today's topic, the power of Agile HR, right? It's all about people at the end of the day. So my question to you then would be, why did you start with this HR journey? You know, you're sharing your journey as an HR director today. So tell us something more about how you started with it. What motivated you there?
Yeah. So that was actually quite interesting. I remember when I started my studies many, many, many years ago, I was very uncertain as to what I should study. And I've done some tests, and basically they said, you know what, choose and you should be successful. And in the end, I decided to study a business degree, because I think that is good to have that foundation, irrelevant in which career you go. And then my first role was actually implementing software. So it was what we call a payroll and HR consultants, and I implemented the software. I did some training on the software, the setup, telephone support afterwards. And what a beautiful way to start the career, because immediately I understood the importance of systems when we think of HR, because it was HR and payroll related software. So that's where I started my journey, my career journey. And then later on in that business, I had a mentor, and the mentor was actually working in the HR department of that organization. Very small, but very focused on the values of the organization, very focused on the people, not only the employees, but also the people in the community, focused on clients. Yeah, putting people first was very important for us. And I would say about a few years into my career, I got the opportunity to transform into HR. So first actually starting in learning and development in the business for us, training the consultants and get them ready to support the clients, because customer service is very, very important. And that's what I did next. I focused on training the support consultants and making sure that their knowledge, but also the other attributions are at an acceptable level. And from there, I transitioned into straight HR, building an HR team. And I think for me, Sarika, it's because the success of any business, and I know it's a cliche, but we know that the success of every business are their people. I mean, that's their IP, that's the people that interact with the customers. And I learned the lesson that if you take care of your people, that will impact the service delivery to your customer. And that's obviously the end goal, that you want happy customers, because then your business will grow. And I think we had that success formula, worked out for us.
It's beautiful. You're right. It's a cliche, but that is the fact also, right? And we do see organizations where if people are taken care of and they can take care of themselves as the first customer of that organization, their clients are so super happy because, people are going to do it all to make sure the clients are successful and happy too at the end of it. So, which obviously shows us a lot about your agile mindset. And I know we've been talking so much about the whole growth mindset and everything else, where customers at the center and people are at the center. So tell us more on, where did you meet this person or whatever called Agile on your journey?
Yeah, so that's actually a story that I'm not always proud of. So let me explain to you why I'm saying that.
Okay.
So when I was HR director in my last corporate role, the development team started to use Agile and the Agile ways of working. Now, we had different, obviously, focus areas in the HR team, and one of them being business partners. And I remember that the business partner that was working with the development team specifically, she was invited to meetings and they involved her in certain discussions. And I sort of thought, when they invited me, I was always too busy with something else strategic. Yeah, seems like an excuse today, but there was always a reason why I did not accept their invitations. And today I am so cross with myself that I have not been more involved at that time. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that, Sarika, because obviously Agile was something new for me. It was a concept that I did not understand. I know it was a different way for the development teams and the quality control teams to work together and, to deliver and design products. But I didn't understand how my processes, if when I say my processes, I'm talking about the HR processes like recruitment, like performance management, even things like leadership development, how that was actually a bottleneck for the development team. Yeah. What was interesting, if I reflect back on the journey that time, I do recall many, many conversations with a business leader from development, trying to understand why are they always late with submissions. I mean, it can be anything. It can be performance management. At that point in time, we were still doing ratings. Yeah, were there ratings for the team? It could be the talent grids that we were looking at. Name it, they were always late. And only after I left the organization, I met with Pia Maria. I think many of the people might know Pia Maria. She came to South Africa and she did the Agile HR course. And that's when I, for the first time, understood that when we look at the organization, we can only be as agile as the least agile department. And I feel very bad to say that I think even though our HR department was excellent, I mean, we got great scores, we did internal surveys, the feedback is always positive. I might have mentioned to you that we even won the best company to work for 3 times in a row, yeah, because we were focused on the people, which is great. But we did not understand how the agile ways of working impacted, or our policies impacted their agile ways of working. And I always laugh when I do the module on performance management. I say, yes, that's me. I'm the one, the traditional one, designing a performance management system, rolling it out, and not realizing what's the impact. Yeah, so my first introduction to Agile was during my corporate career, but not really understanding what it means. And only when I started my own business and focusing on the accreditation of myself and other HR professionals, I really understood the benefit of adopting that way of working.
Oh, it's a very delightful journey to hear. In fact, I didn't know all of it. So this is more informative now. But here's my question. Now I'm curious. What was your aha moment when, you went through this whole course and everything? Did you have like an aha moment? I'm sure you had many, but what was that one thing that like super stuck with you and got you to, continue that journey forward?
Yeah. So there's actually a few. And I think for me, I have always been focused on the people side. So when we think of the agile values, and especially the modern agile values of making people awesome, we can definitely tick that one. And I was always of the belief that we do deliver value continuously. But I think for me, a big aha moment was that no longer is it a one size that fits all. And I do need to understand that I need to have a different approach for the development team because of their rhythms. I think they use Scrum at that point in time because of the rhythms. So that for me was a big aha. If you think of the value that you provide for your customers, I mean, HR customers, the employees and the managers, I think that was the one thing. And the second one was really to think, how do we collaborate differently with the business? Because again, I mean, I was of the opinion that, yes, we have some cross-functional projects going, but never understood how we can design something that is, let's call it a minimum viable product. So it's good enough to test and then really give it to the employees to test and get their feedback and then build and pivot from there. So that for me, I think was the 2 big aha moments.
Oh, love that. Which obviously makes me think, because you mentioned a number of agile values already, is that one of your favorite agile values, or do you have more favorites that you'd like to share with us? Obviously, keeping the agility in HR hat on.
Yeah. So I think, let me just think about that, because I don't think they're my favorite ones. I think that the two that's very close to my heart would be the one about transparency, simply because of how we operate, and especially in HR, sometimes we try to hide things, not intentionally, not with a, from a bad place, but sometimes you think that, I can only be so transparent. And that for me was a big question to say, looking at transparency, how transparent can you be, or are you in your HR team? So I think that one for me, and the reason why I think that one is also so close to heart, it really talks to the working relationships, yeah? Are we open? Are we eager to participate? Can we say, you know what, I don't agree necessarily. So it's really about that whole transparency and trust. And I think the other one might be authenticity. The reason why I say authenticity is that a lot of the times when I work with leaders in HR teams, we're not showing, we're putting on a mask. And I'm not sure why. Yeah, I think it's because you want to be professional or you want to be seen as whatever. And I think if you understand that you can just be your authentic self, and again, it comes back to that creating an environment where people can say, yes, I have a question, or yes, I made a mistake, which links to psychological safety. But I think that's the two that comes to mind now. So, Sarika, it's difficult because there's so many.
I know, I can imagine. Which is, I was like, I wonder which ones resonate more with her and why. So, yeah. But it's tough, but you still nail it down to at least maybe 3, because you said transparency, trust, and authenticity. So it's actually 3, but it's really nice.
And even psychological safety. Oh, so let's say 4 there.
4, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But now I'm intrigued about, you did mention a couple of things, that you encountered as aha moments on that journey of yours. But tell us a little more in terms of real-time challenges that now, putting on the hat of a coach and a consultant that you do with organizations, enabling people and teams, to be a little more agile, whether those are leaders in the HR space or otherwise. What might be the challenges that you see HR teams encounter? And if you can share like maybe top 2 trends that you're seeing or top 2 highlights from your experience.
The first one that I see often is that whole concept that they look at Agile, they perhaps Google something, they get some buzzwords, we need to do Scrum, why don't we use a Kanban board? And then they say, if we use, for example, Kanban for the recruitment process, suddenly we're Agile. Yeah. And I think that is a big misconception because, and I see that in many teams that I work with, that we do need to, first of all, understand why do we want to go Agile? Why do we want to adopt that ways of work? Is it because the business is going Agile and we're supporting that journey? Is it because the development team is Agile and we now need to work differently? Or is it because we want to lead the way into showing the business that we can be adaptive? So I think that first question of why we do that goes hand in hand with it's a mindset change, yeah? And the reason why I'm emphasizing that, Sarika, it's not a quick and dirty. It's not that we can say we want to go Agile HR and in 2 or 3 months' time, we are there. But if we have that mindset, I think we can see the progress, especially if you're very clear on what is the problem that you're trying to solve. Is it that you want to implement a new employee or a better employee experience? Now that I'm clear on that, how do I measure that? And then start to think, what can I do differently or how can we work differently? So I think that's the first one. And then the second one, I think it's this whole concept of working in cross-functional teams. Because how can you now work in cross-functional teams? Because it takes time. So let's say I am busy with, let's continue with that employee experience example. I am busy with redesigning, let's say, onboarding and even redesigning how we give recognition in the business, just as 2 examples. And now we know with the agile ways of work, it's not for HR to sit in the corner and to design something and then roll it out. It's really to listen to our customers, to our employees, and understand, but where's the gaps? If they reflect on their journey, how can we make it a better experience? And I think that is what I often see with those cross-functional teams is you might do it because it's a tick box, but are you really, really interested to hear the different opinions from different places in the organization? And then, as I said, it takes time. So if you meet on a regular basis to have a look and see the demo and get the feedback and analyze the feedback, it is time consuming. And people need to say, okay, yes, if I say yes to Agile, what am I perhaps saying no to, and which one is the better choice for me at that point in time?
Yeah, I love these points that you're bringing out in terms of the challenges and, how people might even look to enable that even for themselves, even once, you've set that environment up for them, because at the end of it, it's all about, the, isn't it Kurt Lewin's equation, which talks about behavior as a function of the persona or the personality and the environment itself. So you coming there, being an enabler, setting that environment, and of course, in collaboration or co-creating that with the teams in that organization, and then continuing that improvement so that they can just get better at their own agility, which is fantastic. But tell me, Anja, what is it that's stopping so many HR departments today from jumping onto that journey? Because you and I'm sure, I see a lot of bottlenecks in that space for sure, for different reasons. But I'm curious, what have you seen in your journey? What's stopping them?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the time what's stopping them is that they're not sure where to start. It's almost as if they want to say, please give me a case study and show me what is the best practice to roll Agile into HR. Yeah. And I always tell them it's not about a checklist, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. It's more about, let's take I almost want to say an exciting project, and let's experiment with the Agile ways of working. So because they're not sure where to start, sometimes they just, they leave it all together. And interesting enough, what I have seen, Sarika, it really depends if the organization is busy with a transformation journey to become more agile. And then sometimes it's easier for the HR team to say, okay, we are part of that journey. We do understand it's not only for development anymore. But where I have seen a lot of hesitation is where HR teams say, I know we need a different approach. We're very traditional in the way of working. Let's take the lead. And I think it might be the uncertainty, the fear of failure, even the fear of business don't understand why we doing things differently now. That's what I've seen a lot of the time. And I think for me, it comes back then to the narrative. The narrative with business, why are we going agile? What's the type of words that I now use when I communicate with the business? And it makes me think, Sarika, that people might be motivated and agree, yes, we need to go agile, but they don't have the skills or the knowledge to do that. And that's not difficult. I mean, there's a lot of powerful trainings out there that support you with the basic of, these are the agile values, these are the principles, these are some of the practices and tools. Okay, but now let's make it real and then take one project. So I think it's best to work with someone that supports you on that journey, that you feel you're not alone. But it is about the fun of working in a team and experimenting and seeing what you learn and what works for you and what does not.
And going back to what you said, there's no one size fits all, right? So there's no silver bullet there anyway. So yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've been talking about values. We've shared a little about principles. Let's get to a little more tangible stuff so that, listeners and viewers of our event today can also take something, just so that they can start with something tangible out there. So my question to you would be, if you had to share, let's say, a couple of tools, techniques, or practices that could enable people to onboard their own journey of agility in HR, what would that be?
Yeah. So there's actually a few that comes to mind, and there might even be people that don't even realize they're using this, which the agile principle, because I think there are few that's more common than others. For example, what we call a daily stand-up, where you daily check in with a team and have a short meeting, briefly talking about what did you work on yesterday? What's your plan for today? Where do you need help? And I think that's a quick check-in to, with one short meeting, understand, are we on track with what we said we were on track with? Do we need additional help? Where can we support the team? And where are we perhaps behind, where we need to make additional plans? So I think I've seen a lot of people adopting that, not necessarily on a daily basis, but perhaps on a weekly basis. But that is something where, because it's about the collaboration, the cross-functional teams, I think that's one of my favorite. And that for me goes hand in hand with the retrospective. And again, I think there might be people out there that's doing a retrospective where at the end of the project, they reflect back and they have a look and they say, but what worked well? What did we learn? What will we continue with going forward? But at the same time, what did not go so well? Where do we, what are those lessons that we've learned, that we know, okay, we have experiment, it didn't work out that way, and we definitely need to, going forward, we'll do it differently. So that's the two that comes to mind. One client that I've recently supported, they decided to go on a project with changing their recruitment, the way that they, I won't necessarily say source people, but more once they have that CV, how do they screen? How do they interview? How do they, provide feedback? What's that time frame? And for that one, what was quite nice, it was a smaller company, a smaller organization, and they used the Kanban board. Very, it shows everyone that's involved, where are they, what's the feedback, and it was a nice way of tracking where they are, where they fall behind. And that was a tool that they have used. So yeah, that's just a few that comes to mind. Do you want me to elaborate a little bit more?
Oh, no, this is good. This is great, in fact. So yeah, visualization with Kanban boards, definitely someone can quickly start to try and visualize it. So yeah, if you can see it, you can even figure out where your bottlenecks lie or where you stuck, So yeah, that would be awesome. And like you said, daily check-ins just to figure out how you can plan, replan every moment in every other day at a certain periodic frequency. And the most strongest one, the retrospective, what have we learned? What are we doing well? How can we move forward? Yeah, awesome. Awesome tools and techniques. And I'm sure our viewers and listeners could really jumpstart with this. And of course, then there's tons of material to tap into from your own experience to learn more. But this is a great starter. So thank you for sharing that, Anja.
Yeah, and I think perhaps to just add on that, Sarika, I think it really depends for the listeners out there about what are their context, what's their reality. Am I currently a very traditional HR team, and we have I want to say, traditional ways of working, traditional ways of doing performance management, doing surveys, or are you a part of a smaller organization where the HR team are smaller and it's a lot easier to be agile and adaptive? Yeah. So I think that should also guide you as to where do you start, because if you're part of a smaller HR team, it is a lot easier to experiment and learn, where if you're more traditional, and especially if you have different HR teams, one focusing on learning and development, another one focusing on reward, or you have a reward specialist, and then you have the recruitment team, and then you have business partners or whatever, however you set up. Because what I have seen, Sarika, is that the magic of Agile in HR, if we can be more T-shaped. And what that simply means is that we less of a specialist, less of an expert, but more that everyone in the team can almost solve any problem, HR-related problem in the business. So it's that multi-skilling of the team. And I think that's sometimes also challenging, because we do have people that prefer to be a specialist versus a generalist.
True. Going back to where we started on your journey, again, no one size fits all, but light your path or on your journey based on where you are. So And another awesome takeaway for everybody from this. My final question to you, because I think we have already jumped on time, but yeah, I still want to ask this one question because conversations with you are, again, very awesome. So my final question to you, Anja, would be any other advice that you would like to leave, talking about the power of Agile HR?
So I definitely see that the power of that is to try it out and see the different results. Yeah. So if you're sitting there and you wonder, sure, I'm not sure, it sounds good. I'm already having that customer focus. I'm already building psychological safety. Is that not sufficient? And then I would encourage you to think of ways of working better so that you can respond a lot quicker to the changing environment. So I often get people saying, yeah, but you know what, looking at these principles, I can tick a few of them. And I almost want you to go and have a look at which ones are you not ticking, and then what can you benefit, or not you, what can the business benefit from we adopting that principle as well. So it's good progress, good that you're there already, but it's almost like stretching yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. I have seen that the people adopting an agile approach, yeah, it might not be always as easy, but it's definitely a lot of fun because you work closely together, because we experiment and learn, because we involve people and getting their feedback and see what's working. So my invitation would be just start. Yeah, you know where to reach us if you need support, but don't hesitate any longer. I think you will be surprised at how well you provide value to the business.
Brilliant. So people listening and viewing our show today, just start, just begin. Don't stop yourself. So thank you so much, Anja, for a lovely last 2 cents that you've shared with us, in addition to the whole amazingly enriching conversation. Thank you. And I hope to see you again soon.